Anyway, I just want to thank everybody for being really cool, especially the Patreon subscribers. You guys have been amazing. Now, without further ado, the guest on this podcast, one of my favorite comedians of all time. I hope I'm not making him blush. And he's a writer on Real Time with Bill Maher. He's had his own Comedy Central half hour. He's got two of my favorite late night appearances of all time on Jimmy Fallon and on Conan. Without further ado, let's bring on the one and only Nick Vatterott.
Hi, it's Nick Vatterott. You really need to see some more comedians. I've been telling you this the whole time. There's a great scene in Chicago. You should go around. Check them out. They're all
Nick, you got a special place in my heart, bud. I was actually on the very last podcast I did. I had a friend of yours, enemy of mine, Adam Burke, as a guest. I hate that piece of shit.
You guys are enemies?
Yeah, he doesn't like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and he thinks I've forgiven him for that, but I have not. So anyway,
I need to go to school. You're an education guy.
I am, exactly. Well, you know what? He immigrated to the United States at around that time, so I think he thought of Ferris as being this cool American and this like role model in which he can never obtain that kind of cool, and it just intimidated him when he came over.
What is your big issue with Ferris Bueller? It's been a while since I've seen it.
No, I love it. He has an issue with it.
Oh. What is his issue?
His issue is that Ferris is a dick because he like bullies his friend into going out and having a great time. But I'm pretty sure a good friend of ours, Sean Flannery, butted in when we had this big argument about a year and a half ago saying, if anything, he gave Cameron the greatest story ever. Cameron's some adult out there now in the world going, hey, I got this buddy Ferris in high school. You wouldn't believe this shit we did back then. And Ferris offered to take the blame for the Ferrari getting destroyed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's your, yeah. But I understand. I do like a character that the character either can't be cool or they can't know that they're cool, or they can be cool but never talk about they're cool. I don't know. I understand it, but yeah, he was like, yeah. I always loved that. I love that character.
It's a fun movie.
Talking to the camera. I mean, I guess Woody Allen did it before him, but I'd never really seen that before as a child. I didn't know. I thought he was talking to me. I tried to find him. I left my house when I was 8 years old. I was like, that guy's trying to talk to me. I got to talk back to him. So I went on a, voice. I wouldn't mind I took a whole year off looking for that guy. Turns out that was an alias. His real name is, what's
his real name? Is Matthew Jessica Parker.
That's right. All these actors, they always use their alias when they go on the movies. They don't want you to know that's them up there, but I can tell.
Yeah, you can tell. You're a smart guy. So, Nick, we talked about how you had our favorite late night appearances. Not to blow smoke up your ass or kiss that beautiful butt of yours, but we were basically talking about how the late night set could be weird for a lot of comedians. Because Conan is announced, he's kind of ditching his traditional format. I guess late night ratings are down. And look, I root for anything that helps comedians. So I'm not like happy that late night's not doing well, but seems like an outdated way for a comedian to reach an audience, because it's always like, not always, but with a lot of comedians, it's like a watered down version of themselves. But you on both Fallon and Conan did something so unique that you made it where I'm like, that's what a late night set should be. Make an impression to the point where people are talking about it the next day at work. And dude, what were you just going through your head when you first got booked for Fallon and you were like, I'm going to try. And by the way, everyone, pause this right now, go on YouTube and type in Nick Vatterott, Jimmy Fallon, because it's a phenomenal set. Nick does a really cool thing where he pretends, I'm giving it away. I don't know. Damn it. Just pause, go watch it, and then come back. That way I'm not spoiler alert anyone. But you do a thing where you pretend you forgot your last joke. The audience bought it.
Yeah, they were great. They, I had auditioned with that bit. That was the bit that I got into Montreal Comedy Festival with. And so I was able to run around and do that in a couple different places. I used to do it at the Elevated. I used to do that bit like once a year. Do you remember the Elevated, Kane Collier?
Yeah, that was fading right around the time I was starting, sadly fading. And then it became like a bar called The Mix or something like that. And then they moved it to Cherry Red or something. I can't remember. I was talking about this with a friend of ours. Yeah, I was talking about this with Mark Geary actually not that long ago about like the history of Chicago comedy, and our friend Mike Bryanstein's doing this great thing on his Patreon where he's breaking down like this Chicago comedy from like 1998 to 2007 or something like that, and the Elevated's a big piece of that.
It is so funny when you get to a scene. I was thinking about this when you get to like when I got to Chicago, I just assumed, like everything that happened. It's like picturing your parents before you were born. Like it blows your mind they had this whole life.
Yeah.
That life existed for them before you came around. And then comedy, it's like everything that happened in Chicago before I got here is like the thing of lore. I would hear about these the Coiling Tippling House, and which when I got there, there was the last couple breaths of that before that like went away, and then like I guess something called like the Red Lion, that was like a big thing, and then a Midnight Bible School, and Dwayne Kennedy, and all these like guys that were like the people before I got there. It's just that's all just like Lord of the Rings to me. I have I have like this fantastical thought of what it was all like in my head, but I was not there for it. And then when you get there, you just assume that everybody who was there at the time has been there forever. Like I remember getting there and just looking around, and because I went to the Lion's Den. That was like the first time I was like, that was like my first open mic, I think, in Chicago. And I walked in, and it was just everybody. It was the whole scene. They put up 100, or 50, 60 people in a night, and it would go all night long. But I just assumed that everybody there was like had been doing comedy for years. And I remember like living with Jared Logan later in life, probably about 10 years after this happened. And I found out that he'd moved there like a week before me. But I thought he was this guy. I think I was like asking him advice, like I just thought that all these people have been around forever. You don't realize that everybody is just kind of, some people have been there for a couple of years, some been there for a couple of weeks. And then I remember going to see a main stage show at Second City. And I was looking at with the playbill of all the actors. And Deb Downing was a main stage person up there. And I was reading her bio, and she says one of her favorite places was the Alternative Comedy, stand-up comedy club. Whatever I just said.
Elevated.
Elevated, yeah. I was like, I got to check out this alternative comedy. This sounds great. And and then the first time I ever got booked on it, or one of the first times, I was like, I got to come up with an alternative comedy bit. So that was sort of like why I came up with that whole bit that I did on Fallon years beforehand. And because John Roy just wrote this like really cool piece about the set, and we talked about old Chicago stuff and how like we just guessed at what alternative comedy was. We had no idea. Like we had this idea. We're like, I wonder what they're doing in New York. Well, let's just try to guess what they're doing, And so we like, we were all just trying whatever. And then we got up to New York and then realized that alternative comedy was just leaning against a wall and not knowing your material.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very New York. Well, it was funny to me because when I started too, I felt the same way you did, where this whole world was crazy and all the stories you had heard. And my first year or two, I was telling some young Chicago comedians, I was at the Laugh Factory like a couple weeks ago, and there's people in like their mid 20s now, which is weird being, the age as we are now, going like, oh God, we were once that age. I was telling them, I'm like, the comics I was starting out with are like, not starting out with, but who were like the top dogs of the Chicago comedy scene are all like wildly, some of the one's going to be in a Marvel movie in a few months, like TJ Miller's been in movies, Hannibal's in movies, Kumail's in movies. You know what I mean? You write for Real Time with Bill Maher and have done a bunch of insanely fun shit. Like everyone, it seems like such a great class that you were a part of. And I think it was like that freedom that Chicago had to be like, we'll try whatever, we'll do whatever. But to me, alt comedy was always just like a lot of this plays in clubs, but you guys are just, I don't know, dressed poorly. I don't really know. It didn't always seem all that alt to me.
Yeah, I often thought that like alternative comedy was just prop comedy, yeah, in like hipster clothing or something, you know. Um, yeah, I mean, when did you move to Chicago? Or when
Well,
did you start doing
I started doing stand up like end of '06. I didn't really start fully doing it until like '07. I was going to mics and stuff. I remember
comedy?
hearing a great story with you guys because I ended up, I had a car. So I remember you were probably drunk. You and Brady and like CJ and Flannery hopped into my car. I had a minivan.
Is
And
this
we
when we
ended up,
went to the diner?
yes, we went to Diner Grill. And they were telling me a hilarious story about Flannery, or you lost your cell phone, or you left your phone with them. And they were so drunk. They were like, Flannery's like, oh, I got Vatterott's phone. Oh, well, shit, someone should call him and let him know. And then they fucking called. And then the phone starts ringing. And they're like, oh, we're fucking morons. Of course he can't answer. I have his phone. And it just cracked me up. Anyway, and you had his number. Or no, you had every name saved in your phone in like a silly way. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, like Flannery. So listeners, Sean Flannery's been on my podcast before. You got to feel way back when, but he kind of has an accent where he stretches out like Sean Flannery. And you wrote
Sean Flannery.
you wrote Flannery with like 19 A's or something like that.
Yeah. I finally had to stop doing that because people called me and I was like, you know, who's barbecue balls, or you know, like it was always like in that whatever I thought was funny in that moment to put their phone in, it's whatever I did. And then I just had too many calls and I was like, I don't know how to find people on my phone. I don't know what who this person is calling. I wish I had, everything is like so over documented right now. People just take pictures of every meal they have, and I have my Chicago memories. I feel like I got about 17. That's it. Like I would love to remember this the cell phone story. I'm sure that was a huge ordeal for me. I bet I went out without my phone for a week back then, and had to live this life and didn't know if I'd ever see it again, and thought about moving back to St. Louis just because I lost my phone. There was probably I probably did 10 minutes about it on stage. I don't even remember it now. I wish I wrote down more stuff, or I only wrote down jokes. I would, there was no Twitter to kind of go back and research and stuff. I guess
I couldn't even log into my MySpace if I think the page exists, but I don't know the login.
Yeah,
that was like the only thing we had.
I tried to look a few years ago. It is, I don't know what it is now. It's like a dance club now or something.
Someone made a funny point about Tom from MySpace where it's like, he just wanted to be your friend. He wasn't trying to tear down democracy with all sorts of propaganda. Nice guy.
Could you imagine Tom from MySpace in Congress, with his T-shirt and his thumbs up sign,
Yeah, I don't know what these Russians are doing. This is news to me.
Tom, what are you doing? Where are you passing along this information on our top 7 friends? Who are you telling China who our top 7 friends are?
Oh man, I talked about that with a friend of ours, Renee Gauthier, a couple podcasts ago about that top 8 being serious. Like for those young listeners, do you remember? Yeah. So for the younger listeners, there was a top 8 on MySpace where if you went to MySpace was kind of cool because it taught you like coding in a way. And you could pick like who your favorite people were. Crazy. And it was a big deal if you got pushed out of that top 8 or top 12. You could even do sometimes. You don't remember this?
Yeah, I mean, it was, nowadays, that was before they knew they could do algorithms, to sort of do all this work for you. And then you could self-hate yourself because nobody has any ever control over it. But yeah, I don't, man. That was such a weird world back then. I remember like doing MySpace because, somebody at some Chicago show afterwards was like, dude, you need a website, mate. MySpace is like a website and you can just have a website. I was like, well, I need a website. This was perfect. And then everybody did Facebook and I was like, well, this isn't a website. I don't like this. And then Facebook took off.
Now we're discovering that we don't need any of that. I mean, you don't need Facebook anymore. There's Twitter, there's Instagram, there's all sorts of stuff. And then there's the good old fashioned, like just be really good and people are going to find you, hopefully. But I did want to ask, so Fallon knew you were going to do the whole, I forgot my last joke bit. He knew it going in.
Yeah, so I went to the Gotham Comedy Club. I used to do live at Gotham, big comedy club up there in New York City, and they had auditions, a showcase, I guess. So I did it. I did it there. I did the bit there, and then I found out that Fallon came in and watched. Like right before the show started, he snuck in and saw the whole thing, which I didn't know that he was there. And it went well there. I got put on a short list, and then a couple of months went by. I got a call and got to go in. But he played it. He was great about it. Like you're backstage. It's like I went bungee jumping once, and it felt very close to bungee jumping, where a guy's like kind of holding me back. He's got his hand on my chest, just being like, "Okay, I'm gonna count," and then he's like, all right, 3, 2. And he's like, ladies and gentlemen, give it up for your next performer. And then all of a sudden, Fallon goes, stop, wait. He goes out to the audience, and I'm like, I thought I was about to go out there. My mind was about to go out there. I kind of was relieved I didn't have to go out there.
Oh, wow.
Right away. And then he tells the audience, hey, if you guys could be just the best audience in the world for this person, I'd really appreciate it. It's the first time on TV. And then the audience was he just really set me up very well. And it was the audience was awesome. So yeah, I couldn't ask for a better experience. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And the audience was with you from Jump Street. I just love like the idea of throwing an audience a curveball in such a short set, because it's a big gamble, and you committed to it and it paid off beautifully.
Yeah, I mean the story, like the other part of this was that like I had auditioned for Montreal Comedy Festival a bunch of times, and I always put together what I thought were my best, 5 minutes, 6 minutes of material. The stuff I would, if I was auditioning at Zanies or a mainstream comedy club, the stuff that I would do, dating joke, restaurant joke, just hey, I'm ugly, let's laugh at my face, that type of stuff. And then I like never got it. I always felt I did well, but I never got it. And I was like, well, you know what? If I'm not going to get it this time, I'd rather get it with a bit that I like to do rather than doing a bit that I think they want. And then that was when I got the I did the set list thing that time, and that's when Montreal pulled the trigger on me, and then all this stuff happened after that, leading up to Fallon and stuff.
Well, that's great advice to any young comedians listening. Do the shit you'd want to do. I kind of figured that out too. I've auditioned for Montreal a bunch. Nothing yet. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I don't really care at this point. But I then learned, because at first I used to do that same thing too. I'm like, what are they looking for? What do they want? What's in right now? How do I stand out? All this stuff. At the end of the day, I think you just want a set that you're like, I like that set. That's the set I wanted to do, instead of what you think they might want to do.
I mean, you fail on your own terms. That's what I say. I think some people think it's pessimistic, but I'm like, okay, if this is going to go wrong, which wrong version do I want to have?
Yeah.
Which of the two letdowns? The letdown because I did what everybody thought I should, or I'd rather let myself down than do what I thought everybody else, said.
I agree. I fell into that trap for a stretch there, where I was trying, what it was when I was living in Los Angeles. I think maybe my second year in LA, because my first year in LA, I was just kind of going with things. And I miss LA. I liked LA a lot. I didn't move because I hated the city or the scene or anything like that. I just thought it was the best move for my family and for comedy, for me to be able to go back. I need like a reset. I wanted to be able to go up every night and just worry about stand up and not all the other bullshit that you could get clouded with in LA a little bit. And having a baby obviously helped coming back home. But one thing I did that was so stupid for a stretch was that I was trying to do that opening joke that you see on a late night spot. So many late night openers, not you though, Nick, but so many of them have that joke where it's like, my name is this. Isn't that a stupid name? Or I look like this guy, or, I'm half this and half that. It's always that introductory joke. Like a good friend of mine, Megan Gailey, she wouldn't mind me saying this, but her opening joke was about how Megan is a dumb white girl name. That comedian Ian Carmel, and these are good comedians, I'm not knocking them, but Ian Carmel has a joke about how it sounds like a British chocolate thief or something. And it's, all of these, John Roy, who you mentioned earlier, hilarious dude. He made a joke about how he's in his 40s and he wears like zip up hoodies like he's 12. Obviously, if he didn't wear it that night, that joke would have bombed. But
right.
And I love John. And he's tremendous. So I'm not knocking any of these comedians, but I realized about myself, I didn't have one of those jokes. And then I was trying to force it, and I'm like, that's just not my style. So then eventually I'm just like, oh, who cares? I don't want to do something that's not me on national television anyway.
I think I think there's a lot of stand-up comedy that I feel we do, that we do it because we see other people do it and we think that that's how it's supposed to be done, as opposed to this is what I think it should be, or could be. I also like the idea of like, what is the comedian that you see yourself being in the future? Be that comedian now.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are like, well, one day I'm going to be this, and it's like, well, what are you waiting for? Do it now. Are you always going to be, I think I have, gosh, you just made me think of that. I know I had a version of that at one point. And I can't remember what it was. I had some name about and so in St. Louis, I have one. I'm Nick Vatterott. A lot of people say Vatterott, what kind of name is that? It's actually German for technical college, which if you live in St. Louis, you see the commercials for the technical college on. That's like the DeVry of St. Louis, It's like perfect to do in St. Louis. And then, so when you have a joke like that about your name that like gets you on the right foot with everybody right away, or about your face, or about whatever, it's greasing the wheel. You kind of, it's a little cheat, because you kind of need to cheat a little bit, or it is so hard to get them. That was one thing I got from one of the biggest influences in my comedy is Brian Regan's album, where he says,
he's great.
His first album, or not the first, I don't know if it's the first, but he does, his first joke on the album is the U2 joke. He's at the airport. The guy says, have a nice flight. He says, you too.
Yeah. That joke's
it's
right.
The funniest joke on the whole album. And he does it first. And I was like, oh yeah, why would you save your best joke for the end? I always like to save your best joke for your closer. No, save your best joke for the beginning. Get them on board, because it's so much harder to win them back than it is to lose them once you already have them.
Well, a lot of I think I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. But I've noticed there's a weird thing lately with some specials. I'll watch some specials here and there. I don't watch a ton, but I noticed the special ends and I'm just like, oh, you just kind of ended. I definitely think open strong as hell, but sometimes it's like, I miss it when I used to listen to Richard Pryor and Carlin growing up and so many greats. And it felt like they built to like a crescendo where you kind of felt like at any minute now, the audience is dying. Everyone's going insane. They were just going to say, I'm Joe Kilgallon. Thanks everyone. Have a good night. And then, everyone goes like, I loved that build up. And I watched some and I'm like, oh, they just said goodnight. There was that last joke had the feel of a joke 20 minutes in, as opposed to 55 or 60 minutes in. So that part of it's a little bit, but I agree with you. Punch him in the face right away, grab him instantly. And I agree with you. That Brian Regan album that guy, so underrated. And actually not even really underrated, but I respect the hell out of him because he sells out theaters and has been for a long time without having like major industry push.
I mean, even Gaffigan, I feel, has a little bit more outside of stand-up media under his belt that has helped him. I mean, Regan, I feel, I feel like, most people like had their own TV show or had their own whatever big thing, even if it was, a podcast or whatever. Regan's had just his stand-up. It's all he's sort of like. I mean, his last special was like maybe his best. I don't know. It was so good. He's a guy who just keeps getting better. It's absolutely amazing. It is very respectful.
Isn't it make you, I like bringing this up to comedians because it always makes me smile when I think about it, that we are in a like medium, I guess, or an art form, whatever. I don't like calling it an art form because it sounds too serious, and I'm not a serious guy like that when it talks about comedy. But the beautiful thing about comedy as opposed to music is our prime is like our mid 40s to late 50s. I feel like my favorite comedians and some of their best work, they were old or older. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
Brian Regan's got to be close to 60 and he's still putting out amazing stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Carlin. I just the people that kept doing it. Some people quit.
But like in music though, I feel like all of our favorite bands or artists, their best stuff was like in their early to mid 20s.
Yeah, I don't know. I've tried to talk about that with people, and people get weird about it. I don't know. It is weird. Like, I'm just more interested. Why? What is it? Is it that when you're in your 20s, you have the drive that you need to succeed, and that pushes you? It's just.
Or it could be.
And then comedy. People are writing comedy for the rest of their life. I don't know why people write so many songs when they're younger, and then they don't write as many when they're older. The comedians write jokes the whole time.
It must be something to do with, I know music is supposed to be this one thing that it's like the only thing that affects both sides of your brain. So there's definitely something there that I'm not smart enough or have the knowledge to really dive into. But you're right, man. Like Paul McCartney, one of the greatest songwriters of all time, he released an album about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And I listened to the first couple tracks and it was fine.
Yeah.
But obviously, how insane would that be if Paul McCartney at 80 released an album and everyone's like, guys, better song, better than Yesterday, better than like Hey Jude. I mean, Let It Be is dog shit compared to all the tracks he's got on this latest album. Like that would never happen. It just, I was looking at it like Michael Jackson was 23 when Thriller came out. Kurt Cobain was 22, 23 when he wrote Nevermind. Like there's must be something about, and all the best work is usually right before they become worldwide famous. And then once you get into that world, I feel like you lose part of it. You're just too rich. You're too whatever to be where you were when you were young and hungry.
Which is the same as comedians that you see, like, I definitely see comedians blow up and then I see them not be as good of a comedian anymore.
I've seen that. Yeah.
It's like, and it's like, well, yeah, you went from doing shows every single night to like, the comedy was almost getting in the way of what you really wanted to do. And, I don't know, party or just hang out and I don't know.
Yeah, it depends where you are too. I feel like it happens more so to the people I've noticed in LA where, there's a comic or two that I could think of off the top of my head. I'm not going to say their name, of course, but in general, I've seen this where someone's really good and they were struggling for a while. Then they get some industry love and they start booking a bunch of stuff and then they just start to coast. And I think part of it's because they've got these agents and friends around them who aren't honest with them anymore. Because all their friends are like, if so-and-so gets a TV show, I want to write for it. And all the agents are like, you're amazing. Oh my God, this was a dumb audience. They're stupid. No, you're great. Because their job is to keep your head up high.
Heat has ruined a comedian.
Heat. That's the word they always use. They got heat.
And also like a fan base has ruined a comedian too. I've seen comedians perform in front of only their fan base and they just love them. And then they go on a showcase show where it's not necessarily their fans and they kind of eat shit because they're used to, everyone just telling them this is right. Positive reinforcement isn't always great. It's good. It's a nice. People always talk about humble. I won an award. How humble? That's not humbling. A gold stat. You're humbled by a gold statue. No. Humble is eating shit. That's humbling. And being like, I remember hearing this story about Attell that he like had this one show in Kansas City and just bombed, and then they were all going out. Dave, he's like, no, I'm gonna go back to the hotel, and then just came back just. New material, just destroyed he went home and did the work because he got humbled and he went and did it.
Maybe that's another reason why comedians are great older in age, because we're constantly being humbled, even greats, in that documentary Comedian, it explores Jerry Seinfeld returning to stand-up after doing one of the most successful sitcoms in history. Yeah. And he hadn't done stand-up regularly in years. Mm-hmm. And there's scenes where he's like, I'm one of the biggest names in the world and I just ate shit for 12 minutes. Like, it doesn't matter, You can't get bigger than me. Still bad,
He's a comic. He's a comedian. He likes the work of it. He likes tinkering with it. And yeah, I remember Comedian came out, I think right around when I got to Chicago. I remember walking around Chicago and they had the posters for Comedian on the side of, the boarded up buildings and stuff. And I was like, that movie I got to see that movie. And then I watched it being like, this is a Bible. This is required viewing.
Yeah. When I first started doing stand up, I remember ordering that on something, Amazon maybe. I don't even know if Amazon was as popular to order non-books at that time. And I watched it pretty religiously. I was trying to soak up any comedy documentary I could find. And that was a big one because Colin Quinn was different enough from Jerry where it's like, if you didn't quite agree with Jerry the whole time, he's throwing out enough advice. So
right.
It's pretty sweet.
Identifying with Quinn.
Yeah, I could definitely, right?
I mean, and Seinfeld's such an interesting case because there's so many different ways to do comedy, I kind of liked Regan on his last special talking about OCD and talking about more personal things than he ever had done in the past. He was never a big political. It was always just, here's a stupid thing I did, but I love everything he does. He can do no wrong. If he wanted to, if he wanted to get political or wanted to get personal or something like that, I bet he would be very funny about it. I bet Seinfeld would be very funny about it. I mean, these guys just sort of made a choice and that's fine, but there's no wrong way to do it. Seinfeld's a different, we were talking about like the ending before. And I do think there's one ending that you can do to get that big, pow, that I didn't realize until a few years ago. I think I was actually sort of, I don't know, among the stand-up things that I think I watched that helped me sort of realize this is that I think the next level thing as a comedian, and it's weird because Regan and Seinfeld do not do this, what I'm about to say, and they're obviously at the echelon.
They're hacks. Fuck them. You know what I mean? They don't know.
But if you have like a through line through your set that culminates in your last joke, that can give that big walk-off pop that you're talking about, So maybe sometimes so that way you could, maybe it is your funniest joke, or it doesn't have to be, your standalone funniest joke. You could open with your, standalone funniest joke. And then if you have this thing that leads up to this, I think I watched, Ali Wong's special. She said, it was mostly just, but she had just enough sort of tent pole pieces in the whole thing that the whole thing felt like one big long piece. And it's a very, I feel like that's like a pro way to get that big, thing at the end that you're talking about.
I love that. I saw hers, and you're right that there's like a central theme to it. It's pretty cool because you don't always need to. It's not like every joke has to be part of that. I've seen comics have like a through line, like you're saying, and they go a little bit here, but it always goes back to that. Chappelle did that pretty cool with like his kind of comeback special where he told like the 5 different times he met O.J. Simpson or whatever.
Okay.
And then he kind of he would do a couple bits. And then at the end of one joke that got a real big laugh, he'd go, now the second time I met O.J. because he already told the audience. He told them, I'm going to tell you about the 5 times I met OJ. And then he would tell a story about how the first time he met him, then do a couple jokes. Then bam, here's the second time, then the third time. And then when he came it put it all together beautifully. Right. And even Seinfeld, like that's the thing I wish Seinfeld would kind of explore more. I mean, he's not getting any younger. He's 66, I want to say, where he would get a little bit more personal and stuff. I feel like he's done such a good job of finding the nuance and everything. I remember seeing him live. I've only seen him live once, but it was like 2012. And I had to tell the year because otherwise the joke doesn't seem as hip. I don't know. Hip's not the word, but he did a joke where he's like, what's the deal with these 5-hour energies? Who's working 9 to 1? Like that joke's right there and everyone missed it at that time. 5-hour energy was out for at least 2 years. It was out for. But the way he said it, who the hell's working 9 to 1? Like it's such a specific 5, Yeah. And I remember just being like, man, this guy's how the fuck, I almost didn't even the whole time. I didn't laugh a lot watching because I was like studying. I enjoyed the show, but I don't remember cracking up because I was like, what is, and where this could segue into the next question for you, because it's about writing on a political show, and Nick's a writer for Real Time with Bill Maher, everybody, which is a show I've been watching for ever, which is so cool that I know someone who watches it. I still sometimes will be like, I see your name in the credits at the end of the show. Is Chris Rock's last special, Tambourine. Did you see it?
Yes.
Now, I loved the last 35, 40 minutes because he talked about his divorce. He got vulnerable. He admitted I was a shitty husband. But the first 15 to 20 minutes of it just felt so flat to me because Twitter and 24-hour news networks have kind of ruined the political voices that we used to have. Because it used to be, I can't wait to hear Chris Rock's take on this. Mm-hmm. But then by the time his special comes out, that was 6 months ago. I've heard everyone's take on this. I'm sick of hearing about this. It's been beaten into my head. I don't give a shit anymore. You know what I mean? It feels like it's kind of lost that, I don't know, not spontaneity. That's not the word, but for some reason it felt like Louis Black and Chris Rock to an extent. And some of these political comics were I can't wait to hear their take. But now I know everyone's take because of Twitter and MSNBC and Fox News and all that shit. It just feels like it kind of ruined it for me in a way.
Tambourine came out a few years ago, right?
2017, so 4 or 5 years ago, maybe now.
I can't remember the set I did last Friday. I remember liking it. I don't remember the very beginning part, but I mean, it sounds like something that God, man, I ate some.
I still enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong.
I ate some edibles last night, and I had what was I watching? I was watching something, and then I had this high epiphany that I recorded into my voice message, and maybe it sort of kind of pertains to this. Okay, here you go. I'm gonna explore high while sober. We'll see how this goes. Okay, so you talk about there's a thing that happens. You hear a million takes of it, so then by the time somebody's real take comes out, it's different from the olden days where it's an incident, Rodney King happened, and then 9 months later you see a comedian special do a take on Rodney King, and it's the funniest thing you ever saw.
Yes.
You've only heard your buddies' takes on it up until this point because there was no other media you could absorb. And then like we do now. And then you're saying that, and saying it watered down. I feel like there's as you have Richard Pryor in the background right there. And I also feel, who's the other guy I always think of? Who's the guy that everyone says, Bill Hicks,
Bill Hicks, Bill Hicks,
and Richard Pryor, two of the greats. There's bits of theirs. There's stuff of theirs that I listen to that it's lost on, it's flat on me only because, and my guess is so many people have copied them and sort of stolen the essence of their character and maybe even this particular sort of, a version of this bit that I've been exposed to so many times, that I've heard a cover of Landslide so many times that when I actually see Fleetwood Mac play it, it doesn't do anything for me because I'm like, well, Smashing Pumpkins, that's the real one.
Exactly. Dixie Chick.
So there's this thing where things get diluted down or whatever, and we can't appreciate.
Diluted was the word I was looking for. Thank you. Jesus, I'm such an idiot. Thanks, buddy.
So now we go into my high thought last night. Okay, because I was thinking about how everybody always thinks that more or less. Okay, people think that their generation's the funniest. People older than you, old fogies. You guys don't know. Oh, you laugh at. You think of pulling a penny behind your ears a joke. That's hilarious to you. And then young people, you're like, wait, what is this? What? You dancing backwards? That's funny to you? What is this? That's not funny. And so people, what's fun? Everyone always says, when was SNL the best? When was SNL the best? They never go, when it was the best? 30 years before I was born. They never say that, They never say, the youngest, the newest one, 20 years after I was the age of the people on the show. No, they always say, when they were younger growing up, that generation was their favorite. That was the best. Every generation says this. Okay. So why does this happen? So here's okay, man. And you can cut any of this.
No, I want to hear it, baby.
So my thought is that when we come up as a generation, okay, we all observe, there's a ethos, maybe there's in the atmosphere, there's all the comedians and funny people and personalities and characters that we're all exposed to. We're all exposed to different amounts of them. You might watch more Richard Pryor than me. I might watch more Andy Kaufman than you, but we both know Andy Kaufman and Richard Pryor. We're all exposed to and everything. Then we also have we're all humanity of a generation is exposed to that. So then we also were exposed to our friends and family, and these exposures are what create the comedians of a generation. Okay, because we're all evenly exposed to it. Well, then some people, I don't know, some people don't watch any comedy at all. So and then some people watch tons of it. I think the more you watch, the more you probably have a chance. You have a better chance of becoming a comedian if you're super exposed to comedy than if you're not at all. But but then it's like, well, everyone is exposed to the even amount. What makes those people comedians? It's their personal families, their relationship with personal people. So then these people rise up. Okay, so then you become a comedian based out of everybody you've influenced by everybody you've ever seen, but then you're made specifically you by your personal inner circle people that nobody else knows, but that's what sets you apart from everybody else. Okay, and so but then what everybody likes about you is the part of you that you've absorbed that they've absorbed from other people. Okay, so they like you because you're a creation of the things they already liked. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
So then that generation goes up. Okay, and so then this generation comes up and they rise up. So then this new generation comes in, and this new generation is influenced by where the last generation came up to be. Okay, but these people want to becoming influenced by this new atmosphere of people. Okay, and so then more comedians are formed there, but these people are created by a different atmosphere than the older generation was created, so they don't see the things that they liked in these people because it's diluted or it's a different version of it. So they can see a little bit of it. They can see, well, I think I can see he is funny, And sure, there are people that say, I think this younger person's hilarious. I think this older person's hilarious. Yes, there's anomalies. But I'm saying, generally speaking, it does seem that people identify more with their and I feel like that was my high thought last night of why that happens. Okay, I hope I didn't.
No, I love the high thought. I think it was a lot to digest there for a second, but why? Because right when you started with SNL, I had a weird thing. I was listening to you, but holy shit, man. You know how you were talking about earlier that it's weird to think that your parents had this whole life before you came around?
Yeah.
You were talking about like whose favorite SNL cast is, and nobody ever says their favorite is before they were born.
Right.
But then my dad's favorite was kind of my favorite. My favorite SNL cast was the like early 90s with Mike Myers, Dana Carvey, Farley, Sandler, and Phil Hartman. That was like my dad's favorite too. But dude, I'm now realizing my dad was a little older than me at that time.
Right.
So I'm thinking of my dad as this old guy, but really he was like late 30s while I was like 6 or 7 years. We're 30 years apart in age. So if I was 7, he was 37. So of course a 37-year-old would still have been into that, you know? But yeah, anyway, so that freaked me out a little bit there. But you're right, influence is huge on that stuff.
It is funny because that is the cast too that I loved. That was my favorite. That was when I fell in love with comedy around that time. So they were obviously a big influence for me. That was my favorite. And then I was always, and I am very aware that everybody says that their generation was the favorite. So I have to know that I'm biased because of that. But But I was like, Phil Hartman, though. How do you not think Phil Hartman's one of the best? How do you not think that generation was one of the best? And then I would read. I remember reading that. What was it after? Something happened in the middle of all that where they consider that like one of the worst seasons. I think it was like towards the end of like Sandler's time there and Farley's time there and all that stuff. And I had no idea that was considered one of the worst seasons because I loved it. I loved those people. I loved all of them. But I also think it's funny, like no one says when Anthony Michael Hall, that was the best season.
Yeah. Or Joe Piscopo,
Right.
like there's some shit seasons there. I feel like mid to late 80s where you're like, what is happening right now?
With Iron Man when he was over there and all that.
Oh yeah. Robert Downey Jr. was on the SNL cast. Holy shit. Totally forgot. Julia Louis-Dreyfus was one of the youngest ever. She was like 21.
I'm glad it worked out for her, but
yeah,
she definitely SNL was not her big breakout thing. It felt
no,
like.
But it's funny.
Go ahead.
No, I was saying with Julia Louis-Dreyfus, you joke about how it didn't work out for her. What you're talking about with influence and everything that like what makes people like the comedy they like or what shapes a comedian. I caught myself sticking up for Hollywood nepotism a few weeks ago because I realized there's been a big conversation over the last 5 years or so about how important representation is. And I go, yeah. And then I'm like, yeah, of course, representation is important because so many people, you can't see yourself in a certain profession if there isn't anyone who looks like you in that profession. That makes total sense, I think Hollywood nepotism is, I think a lot of children, if your dad is a famous actor, that's a career option for you. But if your dad's a plumber, and you're like, hey, Dad, I want to be an actor one day. He's going to be like, oh, yeah, okay, there, Joey Hollywood. Go take out the fucking trash first. It's just it's a different environment. So I almost feel like everyone's like, oh, of course, all these famous people's kids get to be in movies. I'm like, I think they're good. A lot of them are good. They're confident.
A lot of them are good.
Like I think Elizabeth Olsen's a great actress. Her two sisters were Mary Kate and Ashley. She blew them out of the water. But I think she grew up where it's like, I grew up in LA. That is like a job option in my world because it's represented around me. Whereas like being a kid on the northwest side of Chicago, construction and firemen were everywhere. Like,
it's so funny. One thing is I just read either today or yesterday that Stephen King's son wrote under a fake name and didn't tell anybody he was his son for like 10 years before. And I think his agent didn't even know. What I read, which is amazing. Some people will, but you're right. Some people are very good. Some people, you almost want to say it's pretty impressive that you were good despite, like, I almost feel like having the life experience of being a plumber's son is more interesting and will make you a more interesting person than being in a bland, fake plastic world like Hollywood.
Agreed.
I also was like, there's a lot of hate towards the rich right now. And I'm not going to defend the rich, but I think it's sort of funny that everybody wants to be rich, like everybody wants money. But then this, like, and I think I just think it's funny that I don't think there's anything wrong with you, Joe, wanting money. Okay. And then I think it's funny that if you were to get a bunch of money, suddenly you deserve my hate. Like you deserve to be torn down as a terrible person. I don't know.
Well, Hannibal, our buddy Hannibal got a bunch of shit because people on Twitter found out he owns a couple apartment buildings and they're like, oh, Hannibal's a landlord? Fuck that piece. First of all, you don't know what kind of landlord he is.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine made a good point. A friend of mine has one apartment building, right? He lives in a modest house, but he rents out like a 3-flat in Chicago. And he was saying, it's funny that so many people hate landlords now because what's happening with that is it's hurting small time landlords and only big companies are now buying things. And so you should be happy when you find out individuals like a Hannibal owns a couple apartment buildings. He's not some huge corporation. Who's more likely to rent to someone who doesn't meet qualifications? A guy like Hannibal Buress or MGM management firm that buys up, 12 unit apartment buildings, 10 at a time and gobbles them up and can give a shit about you and all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't know. I just feel like the guy's got a lot of money that he earned through selling tickets and, making movies and stuff like that.
And this
Why
is
not invest it? I don't know. I just don't think it's bad to be a landlord. It's bad if you're a bad landlord.
What do you expect him to do? You expect him to sit on the money and make his 3 cents on on every $10,000 he owns and make garbage in interest, or you want him to invest it in a almost certainly nefarious company? Do you want him to? What do you want to do? Put it in Bitcoin? Do you want him and then destroy the environment? Do you want him to no matter what you do with the money is going to be subject to judgment? How about we embrace this, we celebrate Hannibal doing this, and we say, how about more cool people be landlords? What if every landlord was a cool person?
Yeah.
Why is the reputation for every landlord just the biggest jerk on earth? Because they want, nobody goes, the fucking waiter wants me to pay him. What is so wrong about a guy wanting you to pay him for the thing that you bought from him?
Yeah.
I think we should all, what if you and I pool our money together? We could probably pool a little money together, get a little joint, make a little extra income. I think, this is the distribution of wealth that we're talking about. Stop letting the corporations, make rent. There's all these shares right now. There's this company. So I do this will be my plug for my podcast, Get Rich Nick. I do with Nick Turner, where each week we try to figure out a different way to get rich. And I found this, one of our sponsors, I shouldn't even, am I plugging a sponsor that's not paying us? But this thing called, it was called Funderize or something like that. You can invest, you can give them money and invest in, they do developments of all sorts, commercial, residential, all sorts of stuff. And it's there should be more companies like this, that give people, this is the great thing about Robinhood, is that it's allowing people this opportunity, hell, even in 15 years ago, maybe I could figure out an E-Trade account and spend an obnoxious amount of money on commissions and, and trade stuff. But this all makes stuff, so much more accessible to people that aren't wealthy and need to make money. So good for Hannibal, man.
Yeah, dude, I agree, man. There's I have no problem with if you become filthy rich exploiting people. Yeah, I don't like that at all. I'm pro union, which helps guard against exploitation of workers.
Right.
Also, because everyone, this whole all billionaires are bad. I'm like, Dick Wolf's a billionaire. He created a bunch of cool shows that are all union run. I'm pretty sure everyone made some decent money on those. Paul McCartney's a billionaire. He wrote some of the greatest songs of all time. It's not, I just don't whenever I hear all, I go, is it all? There's a comedian in me that's a little contrarian. When I hear all of anything, I go, well, let's hold on real quick there. It can't be everybody. Just pay fair share of taxes and there you go. Because if people are like, no more billionaires, I go, well, what about 997 million? Is that okay? Is it okay if I have 950 million bucks? How's that treating you? Is that okay? You know what I mean? But you must talk about this stuff in the writers' room at Real Time with Bill Maher all the time. If you wouldn't mind indulging me a little bit, what's it like on that show? It's a show everyone knows Real Time with Bill Maher, but you guys get such cool panels in there, and the new rules segment is pretty iconic now. It's been going for a couple decades. So what's the writers' room like?
It's pretty fun. It's been very weird with the pandemic. Over the past year, we've been doing all Zoom meetings, but it's we start. I guess some people are sort of I don't know. I think it's interesting, the nuts and bolts of how it goes down. We start working on the next week's show before the prior week. Right. So cool. Our show airs Friday. So Thursday, we're already pitching an editorial, which is the very last new rule of the show. That's sort of talking about, the whole, it's Bill's, it's my, I feel like it's one of the things that are most important to him, because it is the whole show kind of leads up to this moment. It's like you're talking about, you want to leave with this big, this big walk off. And so we start pitching stuff the Thursday beforehand, and he usually settles on something, Thursday or Friday, lets us know for sure. And, kind of poke at it throughout. You know, I mean, I'm always working. I feel like any minute I have downtime is an opportunity to be writing something or reading something. You know, I mean, the amount of stuff I've written. I've read and written more stuff working at this show. It's like if I worked like this in college, I would have finished college. But I just wasn't as interesting to me as the stuff we're doing now. You know, and then Monday we have to we all write these. You know, we turn the editorial in on Monday. We also write these sort of issues about, you know, that can be sort of could be potential editorials that we could talk about later in the week, or they could be issues for our panel to talk about. So there's a lot of writing that we do. Everybody on the show does everything. And so Tuesday is the first time that we're actually all in the room together, and we pitch desk pieces. You know, that's the middle segment of the show. And
before bringing out the final guest.
What's that?
Yeah, that's the piece right before they bring out the final guest.
Yes. This is the closest. I feel like, you know, not doing stand-up as much anymore. You know, I mean, for a couple different reasons, but, you know, my time goes to the show is a huge one. But this is I feel like this is the closest it feels to stand-up, you know, or the stand-up chops, you know, you know, sort of showing how they were relevant and useful, you know. Looking over your desk piece, and it's like trying a new chunk at an open mic, you know, or, you know, you're like, hey.
You ever have a joke really good and you're like, that joke, you know what, Bill? Sorry, I'm saving that one for Nick. That's a Nick joke. You're not getting that one.
Well, I feel like I feel like there is a joke. A joke knows like a joke belongs in a certain place. I feel, you know, like if it's political, if it's social commentary, if it's of the day of what's going on in the news, like that stuff, it makes all that sense for that to go to the show. If I come up with something you know, if I come up with something like a joke about my last name, I'll keep that, you know, that'll be a joke.
I don't know. I think Bill Maher could probably deliver that, but it is interesting, dude. I remember when I first heard, because I think we were both living in LA at the same time together at that point, when you first got on the show as a writer, because no one thinks of you as a political comedian. Now, I know you as a really smart guy. I've had social commentary related conversations with you, you know, off stage hanging out. Yeah. So did a lot of people kind of think, oh, wow, that's weird for Nick, because Nick's kind of like this silly force of nature on stage, and he's going into the world of writing, you know, political jokes.
I think so. Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, really, my writing, it's interesting, you know, this process was you know, you get these writing packets. I was very frustrated with writing packets over the years because I would always spend all this time on it, and I felt like you're just like writing a short story and then throwing it in the ocean, you know, and and you never know, you know, like a stand-up set, I can go out, I can get laughs, I can not get laughs, I can figure out what I need to work on or what I need to fix based on the laughs or lack thereof. You know, with this, you've no feedback. You don't know how close, you don't know if you were close or nowhere near it or what the deal was, you know? And I had gotten I literally was beginning of June going all the way to October. I want to say 8 or 9 packets in a row. It was Sarah Silverman show, Daily show, Colbert show, Kimmel show, Fallon, SNL, you know, it was just a bunch and I just rejection. And then and then the real time packet came up in October, and I had done so many packets in a row. And I always think about you know, Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, and they were you know, my dad used to beat me with a belt, and they're well, what belt did you pick? He's the biggest one with the biggest buckle, because you know, I just felt
fuck him. That's why.
I was if this whole industry, if they don't want me, if they don't want anything I have to write, I'm going to spend so much fucking time on this packet. You know, I'm going to go 10 times harder for this one. I'm going to get the biggest fucking buckle for this fucking packet, you know, so that if I don't get it, it hurts even more because I put so much time into it, you know? And that's the one I wound up getting.
That's fucking awesome, dude. What a great story, buddy. You got time for, I do 2 quick little segments. I know I wanted to keep you for about an hour or so. The first one's called 5 Good Ones, where I ask you 5 questions, some silly, some kind of like legit, like a real question. And then the last one is a quick game of Fuck, Marry, Kill, which I think you might be excited about because I did St. Louis edition, famous St. Louis natives.
This is where I find out. This is where I don't know any of the references, and I'm like,
yeah, I got pictures for you because I thought he might not know them, so I'll get pictures for you. All right, here we go. 5 good ones. Here are the questions. The first one's an easy standard question. What has been your favorite moment in your comedy career?
I mean, oh boy.
Besides doing this podcast.
I mean, Fallon was pretty fun. I also performing with the sketch group Heavyweight was pretty fun, and I think those.
Who was in that group?
T.J. Miller, Brady Novak, Mark Rotterman. We did a sketch for like 10 years.
Hilarious dudes.
Chicago Sketch Fest every year. It was that was some of the most fun time in my life. And after after we all moved away, we would come back in town. I know this is supposed to be quick answers, but we would come back in town.
Fine. It doesn't have to be.
We would land it on Tuesday with nothing, and we would write it. We would run to all the open mics and do as many shows as possible, just try and build a show by the end of the week. And that process was so much fun to do. I got it. That's fun. Chicago, really, I don't know if that could be a moment, but Chicago is probably my favorite.
No, that's definitely a moment. I remember you and TJ popping in at Comedians You Should Know, like going up first just to mess around. And it was always like one of our favorite things to see.
So it's Chicago's my favorite. Chicago's my favorite. So.
That's awesome, buddy. All right. If you weren't in show business, I guess this is a good follow-up. If you weren't in show business, what career do you think you'd be in?
I really need a joke answer to this. But I would probably be a God. I feel like in the past year I thought of this. I feel like I was like, I would definitely be doing. I don't know. I guess
I could see you as a great kindergarten teacher.
You think good with kids? You think?
I think you'd be very good with kids. Maybe a doctor like a Patch Adams, like just a fun, great bedside manner. I could see you definitely being some sort of line of service. But not a cop, obviously. I don't see you as a cop, Nick. Although I bet you could grow a sweet stash.
But I think it's kind of all this. You know what I kind of think? Life of crime.
Yeah.
And a joke answer, but I also think it's sort of a real answer. Right? There's something exhilarating about like posing as a, whatever. It's I would love to like pose as a doctor, go in and do the bedside manner, bring joy to people who are bedridden, and then have a nurse practitioner walk in and go, "Who are you?" And like, and then I run out, and I love escaping. I love trying to go down chutes, climbing out windows and stuff. That's pretty fun. So, but I don't know what the crime is of that.
I agree though. There's something about you want to be part of a heist, man. You know what the closest thing I ever did to a heist was? I remember buying beer once at a local grocery store, and I overheard the cashier asking if they had a preferred card. And the guy said, "I don't have my card, but here's my phone number." The guy said his phone number out loud. I memorized his number. I use his number still to this day as my preferred card at Jewel's, which is a grocery store throughout Chicago. I do. I'm not going to say it out loud because I don't want people calling him being a jerk, but I remember hearing it, and I had a 12-hour Heineken in my hand. I was on my way to a party when I was like early 20s, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to get a discount on this Heineken because I don't have a preferred card either.
It's so funny. So your crime, I think, just gets him points on his card every time.
It does. It's really, he's welcome. As a matter of fact, he's getting all sorts of savings. I'm getting savings. Everyone's getting savings.
I have a great heist, by the way. You want to hear it?
Yes, I do.
Martin Scarelli.
Yes.
He's
terrible person.
Pharma bro.
Yep.
He's the guy who upped the price of EpiPens, and then he's in jail for, I don't know what he's in jail for. But he bought, so Outkast, I believe. So is it Outkast? No, it's
Wu-Tang Clan.
What's that group?
Wu-Tang, right?
Wu-Tang. What am I, 100 years old? But so they sold one album, or just one album. And then I think because they liked this idea of music as art, and so, and this idea that like, you put all this weight on this one thing, and you can't make copies of it. And so they sold it to the highest bidder. Well, Martin Scarelli wound up winning the bid, buying this one album. No one else has ever heard it. It's up to. They also said that it was up to the, person who bought it if they wanted to share it with the world or if they keep it to themselves. They could do whatever they want with this one Wu-Tang album. But it's right now, it's in storage somewhere in some Fed, locked up in some Fed. And that would be the sweetest heist in the world, to like break in there, steal this thing from douchebag Martin Scarelli, and then give the album to the world. I mean, that's what I would probably be doing right now if I wasn't a comedian. Why the hell?
Oh my God. I would want to be on that crew. That's a screenplay, buddy. You just wrote a screenplay.
It'd be so much more fun to do it though.
I would be. Yeah, could we have it be a documentary instead of a screenplay? It's a documentary following us around doing the heist.
God, it's so funny. I just watched a documentary the other day. What was that? These kids in high school, they tied up some lady in there. There was an old book that was worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars in this tiny library in this tiny town, and I think for the excitement of it, the
excitement, the adrenaline rush. That's the point.
It's fun until somebody gets hurt. The tying up the lady was where they took it too far, and then they went to jail for a very long time.
Why don't they just club her over the head real quick? Just knock her out. She's fine. She walks that off. Hopefully, tying up is torture.
I say, how about hey, free ice cream down at the Woolworths? Get her out of there. Lies. Lies. No one uses lies anymore.
Lies need to make a comeback. All right, question number 3. And I want a specific one here on this one. You'll see with the question. If you could have any superhero's powers, whose would you have? Now, I had to say a superhero in particular because if you just say if you could have a superpower, people are always like, I'd fly or something. No, I want I know you might not be a comic book guy, but I'm sure there's someone that sticks out in your head where you're like, I wish I was this person.
Boy, God, again, I got to start writing these down because I feel like I see these things and I'm like, oh, that's the one I want 100%. It's like Halloween costume. It's like you think of it in June and then it's like, I don't know. Guess I'll go as Nancy Reagan again. God, there's so many these days, You got, what?
I'm almost thinking I should start giving the guests these questions ahead of time.
I like the one. There was a pretty fun one. What was it? Oh, it's the girl that has. Okay, so there's a girl on a show. I think it's the Doomsday Patrol, and she has multiple personalities, and each of the personalities has their own superpower. And I think that's pretty cool.
I like that one. That's a good answer.
I think but I don't think you're aware of all the different powers, though. I think it's sort of, I think if you're like the flying person who's sort of like quiet, but then you turn into the person who's like arrogant and can shoot laser beams. I don't think it's like Split where they don't.
See, you'd want to know. I feel like.
I think I would want her superpower because I love the idea of just that I could be like a different guy for a little bit, and then because I think being the different people is just as interesting as doing the. That's my superpower, having a different personality.
There you go. All right, buddy. Let's move on. I got question number 4. I think you're gonna like.
Great.
What actress would play your wife on a Nick Vatterott sitcom? Or husband to get the show made. No, I'm kidding. What wife? Who do you like?
Let's see. Food. Oh, can they be dead?
Sure.
Madeline Kahn. I think I would want Madeline Kahn to be my.
What is she from? I don't know her. I'm sorry.
You remember this? Madeline Kahn.
Oh, okay.
Now, Madeline Kahn is in History of the World Part 1.
Yes.
She is in, I believe, Young Frankenstein. She's a Mel Brooks. She's in a lot of
Mel. Now I'm getting the image in my mind of who she is. Yeah, old school. Yeah, she's definitely dead though.
So dead, but so funny though. She's one of those people that just killed me. Just was so funny. I don't know. Yeah, it's so funny. There's those people that just make you laugh. I was thinking about how I was a huge Catherine O'Hare fan, and it's so fun to see all the buzz from Schitt's Creek happen because it's like because I was always like I feel like Madeline Kahn is underrated, even as she's like sort of pretty big. I still think that she's just like sometimes like why are we not talking?
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned Catherine O'Hara, everybody, because my 4-year-old son is a gigantic fan of hers. That he doesn't even realize, though, because his 2 favorite movies to watch around Christmas time were Home Alone.
Yeah.
And which I thought at the time, I'm like, maybe he's too young to see Home Alone because he did want to reenact knocking people off of things. But it was because he was like 3 at the time. And then his second favorite movie was A Nightmare Before Christmas, which is more of a Halloween movie, but he loves that movie. And she's the voice of Sally.
Right.
So I remember putting that together being like, man, he's got a secret thing for Catherine O'Hara. Doesn't even realize it.
Has he seen Beetlejuice yet?
No, but maybe I should throw that one out there. I think that one might be a little too adult for him. I thought he'd be scared with Nightmare Before Christmas, but he loves it.
Yeah. It's been said to me in the past how much that you don't realize kids enjoy being scared more than you realize.
I'm learning that. You're right. All right. It's funny that you have a dead actress because the last question is, what famous dead person would you want to party with? You can't see her again.
Famous dead person to party with because there's people like Andy Kaufman, which I think would be interesting, but then there's like but then you also think like, well, what's Jesus like? Would he be, or like you go historical, get real deep into it. Yeah, I think like doing some like LSD with like Socrates,
that would be pretty good. See, you went far. Nobody's gone this far back. I like that. The Jesus too, because he doesn't judge. He hung out with a lot of nefarious souls, hung out with prostitutes, turns water into wine. He keeps the party going. So you can really get into some crazy shit with Jesus where you're like, hey man, you said no judgment. Remember you said you don't judge?
Hey, do you care if I
forgive me later?
Hey, I'm not judging. I'm not judging. Hey man, my wife's at home, but I might hook up with this girl. Hey, I'm not judging, man.
He's the perfect wingman, Everyone's got that one friend where they're like, you have that one friend where you're like, I can't sneak a cigarette around you because you're going to give me shit about it. I'm not a smoker, but I'll have a few a week. But you're the one asshole where I'm like, fine, I won't have this cigarette right now, even though I need it. Jesus wouldn't be that guy.
Right. You should make a T-shirt. You should make that as a bumper sticker. Jesus is my wingman. You should.
It's probably already exists. All right, now let's play. Speaking of Jesus, what game Jesus loved, Nick? Fuck, Marry, Kill.
Marry, Kill.
Jesus loved it. All right, everyone, it is time for Fuck, Marry, Kill St. Louis edition in honor for Nick Vatterott's hometown. And I've got 3 famous people from your great city. And I think you're going to like the choices of who you're going to fuck, marry, or kill. In no particular order. Your first choice is 1, Jenna Fisher from The Office.
Okay.
I found a very flattering picture of her for you. We all know she played Pam, and she's been in numerous other things. Mm-hmm. Next, I got a Victoria's Secret model for you. Mm-hmm. One other than Carly Kloss, Victoria's Secret angel. Very tall woman. I believe she's 6'1". And last but not least, another amazing St. Louis resident. Well, not current resident, but native. We got John Goodman. So you got Jenna Fisher, Carly Kloss, or John Goodman. Who of those 3 are you going to fuck, marry, or kill?
Kill Kloss. She's out of there.
She's gone. Any particular reason?
Wings. I don't like ladies with wings.
She'll go flying away. You can't trust her.
Forget
Were you flying around, or were you some other man? What are you doing?
I mean, well, yeah. If I wanted to hook up with wings, I'd date a pigeon. Okay, lady. I think you want to. I think Jenna Fisher seems she seems like somebody that she seems like somebody you could really marry.
Yeah, you got to marry Jenna.
Yeah.
She looks like she'd be good looking in the morning without makeup. She looks like she listens well. She's up for doing fun things, you know?
Yeah, I
Definitely.
think I mean, it's sort of it's tough because she's one of these people that she has this alias on the show Office, and she doesn't. Some people say that she's not really being herself on that show, that she's just putting on a facade. And so I don't know if that's.
Let's see if I could do a real Office trick here. Here's what they do at the Office. It's always like someone does something stupid and then it zooms in.
You did it perfect. You did it absolutely perfect. Can I tell you a funny Jenna Fisher story?
Please.
My parents, especially my dad, he would always say, "Hey, Jenna Fisher's from St. Louis. They went to Ursuline, maybe, I don't know." But Nearings, it was Nearings. But it was always like, hey, if you ever see her, tell her that I think she lived. I don't know. I can't. Now I thought she lived like straight up like in Baldwin or Manchester, something very close to us. But to St. Louis, regardless, if you ever see her, tell her you're from St. Louis. For years.
That's a parent move.
Hey, by the way, you ever see Jenna Fisher? I mean, I was in New York for 6 years, never saw Jenna Fisher. I was always told if I ever saw Jenna Fisher, just tell her I'm from St. Louis, okay? More years go by. I'm in LA. I see a famous person every now and then, but it's never Jenna Fisher, so I don't tell them I'm from St. Louis, okay? So, it was Manchester, because now the story is coming to me as I'm telling it. And then I did the podcast, Get Rich Nick. We were on Airwolf for a while, and Airwolf had end of the year party, Christmas party. And Jenna Fisher does a podcast for Airwolf about where they go over each episode of The Office. And she was at the party. And I was like, holy shit, I see Jenna Fisher. And I was told for 10 years, if you ever see Jenna Fisher, you got to tell her you're from St. Louis. So I was like, I have to tell her. I have to at this point. It's been this long thing, whatever. Well, every time I see her, she's talking to someone. She's hugging somebody. It looks like she's connecting with an old friend. I never want to interrupt. I don't know. I'm kind of waiting for a time to just go up and talk to her. But seems like she's always talking to somebody that she knows well. And I don't want to be that guy. And then, maybe an hour and a half, I got a little more of I had a couple more pints of confidence in me. And then I see her, and then she comes out of, looks like the bathroom, and then she stops, and then she's like stops, and she's like on her phone for a second. She's just, oh, there I go. Did I disappear? And I was like, oh, this is the perfect opportunity. I have to go up to her. So I go up to her. I was like, hey, Jenna, my name's Nick. I'm from Manchester. Okay. And she goes, okay, I'm gonna paraphrase the story, but it's basically like, she goes, "Yo, from where?" And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Manchester." And then I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Aren't you from Manchester?" She's like, "A bit north." And I was like, she is always on. She's hilarious. I would definitely marry somebody who's so funny, who's doing what it seems to be a Scottish accent or something.
Yeah, that's crazy though.
Yeah.
But did she eventually break character? And she's like, yeah, I'm from St. Louis too.
She break character. So it turns out she was not her. It was somebody else. I mixed her. She was at the party. She was 100% at the party. And there was another girl there who looked a lot like her. And this conversation, by the way, went on like 3 or 4 minutes of her going, huh? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I live in Manchester. She's like, I'm a bit north Manchester. And so she thought I was talking about the UK where she was from. and I thought she was Jenna Fisher from The Office. But I did realize, though, that you can have a conversation with a very attractive woman if you just go up and say you're from Manchester, like that. Apparently, that's an in, and you can have a conversation.
Good tip. Good tip. You do realize, though.
Yes, and but I think I think he would be gentle. I think Goodman would be very soft. I think he would be gentle with me. I think it would be nothing that you know what? It's like it's not something that I want, but I just can't kill John Goodman.
No, you cannot. You don't kill King Ralph. You don't kill Dan Connor.
No, and I can't kill Jenna Fisher, and I hate people with wings. So that's that. And then and so then it's like, well, I mean, a lifetime. This is more of what I would do to have a lifetime with somebody who I'm guessing would be a good partner based on a character that they play. Based on, and by the way, I'm also basing this on the other person who I thought she was. Like I based on the conversation I had with the Scottish woman, I would want to spend a lifetime with that person. So to trade off with that is for an intimate moment with someone who's made me laugh a lot.
Beautiful. That's a good trade-off. I almost picked John Hamm, who's also from St. Louis. What'd you say? You would have fucked him? Well, rumor is he's swinging some pipe, so I don't know. It might be too much.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, that was a big thing that was all over Twitter a few years ago about how the people on the set of Mad Men were like, you got to wear underwear, pal, because apparently he wasn't wearing underwear, and it was just flopping all over the place. It was like, come on, man, let's.
Hey buddy, tuck it into your sock. That's what
let's put that thing back in the cage.
I have a John Hamm story that also involves Earwolf.
Let's lay it on me, bud.
I walked out of the bathroom and then John Hamm was right there. That's the whole story.
Pretty good. Is he tall? Is he a tall guy?
I believe so. He looks like John Hamm. He looks like a guy who needs to be in Hollywood.
He does. He has that perfect casting in Mad Men, all that stuff. He definitely. I read about his career. He's kind of a late bloomer. When he was playing like a 32-year-old, he was really like 38. And he was great on Curb. You see him on Curb this past season?
Oh crap! No.
Watch the latest season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I was wildly impressed with how funny he was in it.
I feel like he's been in funny. He's funny and stuff. I feel like he does stuff over at Earwolf, like every now and then, or maybe more regularly. I don't think it was a anomaly that he was over there. That I walked out of the bathroom. He was there. That's the second time, by the way, I've been somewhere and walked out. I just think it's so funny that there's 2 times in my life that I've been in a bathroom somewhere and there's a celebrity just waiting for me to get out of the bathroom. And it was John Hamm one time and it was Bill O'Reilly the other time.
Wow.
Bill O'Reilly, I believe it was over at Fox News. I was doing Red Eye, which was a show they used to do with Tom Shalhoub. And I think there's only like the one unisex bathroom over that. So I think he was like, and he had to go on soon. And I don't know why he doesn't have his own bathroom somewhere, but he looked so disappointed because it was funny. I wasn't going to the bathroom. I was in there like going over my jokes for the show and like,
oh, it's hilarious.
I wasn't even going, and he's out there like doing the pee dance, and I'm just sitting there going, what's something funny about the Middle East conflict?
It'd be great if you just heard Bill O'Reilly outside the bathroom door. Fuck it, I'll piss at my desk. Fuck it. We got one goddamn fucking bathroom in this place. Huh? What kind of amateur bullshit is it? Fuck it, I'll piss live. That'd be amazing.
That would have been the best. So the whole sequence of him, fuck it, we'll do it. We'll do it right here on the floor. Fine.
I've never had a celebrity bathroom story, but I did. My wife, when we were first in LA, like we had only been living there for a couple months, went to the bathroom at a Chinese restaurant, and the mother from Everybody Loves Raymond, the actress is Dolores something. She was like waiting to go, and my wife held the door open for her. And she's like, "Oh, thank you, dear." Like just the sweetest old lady ever. She was also the mom. in Christmas Vacation. She's been in a bunch of things. She plays, and she died though, actually, like a year after that. And
you're talking about okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about his wife. Yes, I know you're talking about. Yeah.
No, not the wife. Yeah, his mom. His mom and Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, those are fun. See, I always got more of a kick when I was living in LA or just in life in general, meeting those actors. I went to, there's a pet store on Franklin over by UCB where we went in there to get dog food. Again, we were still new to LA, and Mimi from the Drew Carey show was like, "Oh, you got a beautiful dog." And she's like, she obviously, I took me a second to be like, "Oh my God, it's fucking Mimi." But it was her. And she's like petting my dog. Yeah, like those were the people I'm like,
I recognize her.
I got a good. She didn't have the crazy makeup on, but I was still able to spot her. Those were the people I dug.
Because I waited on Philip Seymour Hoffman in New York, and I didn't get. It was lost on me that I was waiting on him.
That's even cooler.
It was, yeah. Well, it was very funny. He was reading a script. Who knows what famous movie he was reading at the time, and
along came Polly. It'd be great if it was one of those.
Right. I said to him, because I worked by the High Line, and it's always the same conversation when I was bartending, and it's always the same conversation. It's always like, "Hey, how's the weather? What's there to do in this city?" So I saw an end to a different conversation, and I was like, "Hey, you got a script, huh?" I was like, I go, "You in the biz?" And even leaned forward and said it like that. And he goes, "Yeah, you could say that." And I go, "Is that a script?" He's like, "Yeah, something my buddy wrote." I go, "Oh, that's the worst, man. When your buddy makes you read a script, it's like helping you make you move, Like, by the way, his buddy was probably Charlie Kaufman or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the whole time I'm just like, just kind of riffing with them, and I'd wait on other people, then I would come back, and I literally had no idea who he was. I was just like, "So you live out here in New York?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "That's great. You're able to make it out here," because a lot of, I know a lot of people say they got to go to LA. You do the LA thing. But that's great that you're able to live out here and sort of make it work. And I literally, because I had gotten representation within, I think, like a year I was still bartending, so it wasn't that long ago I got representation, and was like going to do the, "Hey, let me help you out if I can." I really had no idea. And at the very end, and I was like, "Maybe you'll be reading a script of mine one day." And he's like, "What's your name?" I was like, "Oh, Nick Vatterott." "What's your name?" He goes, "Phil Hoffman." And then it clicked. He walked away. And as he walked away, I turned to everybody at the bar. I was like, "You guys know who that was?" And everybody laughed. I mean, it was like cheers. Everyone's like, these people who hadn't been speaking to each other for an hour, I'll go, I can't believe you didn't know it was him. Everyone thought I was fucking with him. They thought I was just totally joking around. Yeah, if you win an Oscar, you're in the biz.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Dude, it's sad now because he's dead too. Because it would be so cool if you met him one day. Like, say if he was still alive, he'd probably be on Real Time at some point. And you could have been like, "I'm the idiot bartender." I don't know if you remember this a decade or so ago. Damn you, heroin. Taking away good stories from us and people's lives too. That's part of it.
I hope I didn't drive him to whatever. If he's just like, "Man, what do I got to do to get recognized anywhere?"
Oh, Jesus.
I Mr. Beaned him into the grave.
Amazing. Bartenders in Manhattan don't even recognize me. I want an Oscar, damn it. I work hard. I was in Almost Famous recently. Come on. I was in The Big Lebowski. I'm a character actor, but still an Oscar. Oh, my God. Amazing, buddy. Nick, dude, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Absolutely.
Dude, tell everyone about your podcast again, what the name of it is, where they can find it, where they should follow you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, my name's Nick Vatterott, Vatterott. But check out, I don't know, whatever you do. I don't know. I plug Twitter. I don't know if anybody even does Twitter, but follow me wherever I can. And then this is if you hadn't hated me up to this point, you'll definitely hate me as I try to struggle through plugging anything in my career. But Get Rich Nick is the big thing. It's me and Nick Turner. I don't know. Just type in Get Rich Nick and Nick Vatterott. You'll find it. Subscribe. listen to stuff. We have episodes. We start with, if you're looking for an episode to start on, we have an episode where we won a car on The Price is Right. We also went down to Mexico and tried to buy drugs and sneak it across the border at the farm. You ever hear about pharmaceutical tourism? We tried to buy a bunch of Adderall and sneak it back. That was a pretty funny episode. We tried to babysit kids, two full-grown men trying to babysit kids. It was, you always see that premise in movies, and it's kind of hack, and then it really happens. You're like, yeah, I see where there's a lot of comedy.
Yeah, definitely. I could see that, having two kids.
Yeah.
That's awesome, everyone.
But
that's awesome, Nick. But I was going to say, everyone watch Nick's stuff.
And keep an eye out. Someday, Disingenuous will be out. And so keep an eye out for that. Joe Kilgallon is in it.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Yeah, we filmed some cool shit in Chicago.
So that will be, you made the cut. After the recording, I need to talk to you about that.
Okay, cool. I'm glad I made the cut, because to be honest with you, I was going by an alias during it, and I didn't feel like I nailed it. I felt like, I remember the next day being like, I got to call him up and be like, can we do some reshoots? Because I felt like bad. I felt like dry performance, and I wanted better for you, you know?
You really nailed it. I actually think you're the only person in that whole film that knew what they were doing. But
thank you very much, Nick. I appreciate that, and I thank you for being on the podcast. Everyone, check out those sets. Nick Vatterott. Type in Nick Vatterott Conan and Nick Vatterott Fallon on YouTube. Nick's got a lot of good comedy on. He's got albums out there. No Exit, I believe, was your first album, right?
Oh yeah, I got No Outlet is a sketch show I got. And then For Amusement Only is a Comedy Central album I have. And then I wrote an ebook called How to Make Money from Your Twitter by Turning Your Twitter into an Ebook. Something I wrote during the pandemic and wanted to. It actually was an episode of Get Rich Nick. We were like, can we make money from an ebook? Here, I'm going to write how to do it in 30 easy steps. And it's sort of just making fun of how stupid Twitter is. And it's basically satirical. So yeah, if you got nothing but time to look into me, check it out.
I love it. All right, dude, you are the best. Thanks again, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Joe Kilgallon podcast. Cheers.